Welcome to English Composition. Today we're going to be talking about the writing process, your audience, your outline, and your resources. So, 4 simple writing rules. First, draft masterpieces do not exist. Don't wait to the last moment to get started. Your rough draft should be written a few days prior to the assignment due date, and then you can wait to the very last minute to revise your rough draft. So you still get to wait to the last minute, but at least you have something to work with, and you can revise it and make it at least usually a grade better. Anywho. Number 2, one job at a time. When you are writing, just write. Safe proofreading and editing for later. Focus on grammar and spelling when you revise your rough draft. And look, use online tools and spell check for Word. You're supposed to use technology to help with this stuff. Even if you're a terrible typist, your phone or your computer probably does some kind of text to speech. And we all know that it will say all kinds of things that mishear, and so you have to revise it. So if nothing else, get your thoughts down and then start revising what you've said to make it into a coherent essay, as opposed to a rambling collection of thoughts. All right. So, number 3, write for minutes, not hours. Take a 10-minute break every 20 minutes. Because as you're writing, you're using a lot of brain energy in the sense that you're using your creativity, you're using your skill sets like typing or handwriting. So you want to give yourself a break so you don't get tired. Now, on the other hand, if you get into a mojo, a rhythm, a sense of this is where I'm going to be, that's when you just keep writing. It's rare, but if it happens, go for it. So in this break, what do? You have a snack, you play with your cat or dog, load the dishwasher. These activities will give your brain a rest because you're not actually doing anything. You want to check your phone? Sure. We're all compelled to check our phones. But most importantly, just give yourself a little bit of a rest from multitasking that creative piece and the technical piece of actually writing. Be a good boss to yourself, but hold yourself accountable. You want to create reasonable deadlines. Write with a clear purpose or goal. Understand what details are required. Surround yourself with the right materials and positive personal influences. So what we're saying here is, we've all had terrible bosses, and we've all had good bosses. The good bosses are clear, and they give us time to finish our tasks. Be that kind of boss for yourself, especially if you're planning on opening a business or becoming an entrepreneur. So get these good habits now. Set aside time to write. And again, plan your writing in 20 to 30 minute increments. And again, it's about concentration. It's not about the physical act of writing. But again, if you get into that zone of writing, stick with it. Schedule writing time with your own habits in mind, as well as the deadline. So, we all have times that we are the most awake. I am a morning person. I record usually these video lectures in the morning, because if I did it in the afternoon, I would sound like somebody who was about to go into a coma. I am so zonked in the afternoon. But in the morning, I'm perky. Other people are evening people. I had a roommate in college. She would start studying around 10 o'clock at night. I was going to bed. It's 3 a.m. your time. Some people in the middle of the night, they're night owls. That's when they're most creative. Should you handwrite with a pen or dive right into typing? again, some of us, if you can type really quickly without thinking about where the letters are, you can get your words out faster than if you handwrite. But if you're not a fast typist and you're looking for where the S key is all the time, then it might be easier for you to start with the pen. Will being hungry help you write more quickly, as giving yourself a reward? Okay, if I can get this done for the next 20 minutes, I will get a cookie. And it doesn't matter if you're a kid or an adult, we all like a cookie. Or will it distract you? Sometimes all you can think about is the fact that your insides seem to be caving in, and as a consequence, you can't write. So again, you have to know yourself. What temperature should the room be for you to write? Many prefer a cold room because it keeps the creative juices flowing, so to speak. Does having a glass of wine, if you are over 21 of course, help you relax enough to begin writing? Note I said glass, not about a bottle or 2 bottles or 3 bottles. Really, what it comes down to is a lot of us fear the idea of writing because we have to articulate thoughts and emotions that we have a hard time putting into words, much less writing down. So having a glass of wine or a beer or meditating first, there's always the non-alcohol version, being able to go for a long walk or whatever it takes for you to really chill, that's going to allow your body to stand down from the panic and focus more on the creativity. Will listening to music help or hinder your writing? Some people have to have music on. Other people, they have to have complete silence. What clothes help you write? And don't laugh because it's all true. Yoga pants, jeans, pajama pants, boxer briefs, commando. If you don't know what that is, you can look it up in the Urban Dictionary. If you are distracted by your clothing, you will lose focus. The issue is that if you're uncomfortable, you can't focus on anything. So you really give yourself the most comfort you can give yourself. So let's talk about who you're writing for. Who are your readers? That is always the most important thing. Who are you writing for? Because if you're writing for a little kid versus a teenager versus a work colleague versus a friend, your style of writing is always going to change. What do my readers know about the topic? Do they already understand technical lingo? Are they already in the vein of understanding what a lot of the terminology means? So you want to think about who you're writing for. What do they want to know about the topic? And that's very important. I'm going to bring up the next one. What do they need to know about the topic? So want and need, hopefully, you figured that out with Christmas one day. But what they want to know might be the fun stuff, but what they need to know is the application stuff that they could potentially use on their jobs. What motivates my readers? Is it the idea of learning more, getting more training that will lead to potential job opportunities? What are my readers' backgrounds? So let's say you're writing for your instructor. That would be me. And more importantly, what do you know about me? I like writing. I like reading. And I like being a teacher. So very little, so you have to take that into account. Number 7, what are my readers' attitudes towards me? Some of you may like me. Some of you may think I'm weird, which, believe me, is not an uncommon opinion. Some of you may not think of me at all. So, again, you have to think about how you feel and how me, the reader, will feel when I'm reading this stuff. And what are my readers' attitudes towards the topic? And then who else may read this? I just want you to know I do not generally share essays with my colleagues unless it's plagiarism. And then we mock it theoretically, actually, and wholeheartedly. Let's talk about your audience. How do you talk to your audience? Through tone. It's the way you, the writer, expresses your attitude through writing. Some writing is snarky, some writing is inspirational, some writing is just plain old funny, some writing is very lesson learned kind of thing. But, your tone is the adjectives you describe a conversation with. It was a tense conversation. Oh, it was fine. It was fun. Tone is expressed by your use of sentence structure, your point of view, your diction, and the level of formality in your writing. 3 types. Informal, where you write conversationally. This might be a text message to a friend or a family member. This is where you use all those abbreviations and all that emoticon, emoji, to the moon and back. Number 2, business casual, accessible but not overly familiar. And in most of your jobs, this is where you're going to be writing. You have to write reports. It's just part of any job, is documentation of what you're doing and why you're doing it and all that other good stuff. And then finally, formal, which is your traditional college communication. And the higher you go in a company towards that level of management that really has control over the strategic direction of the company, you're going to have to develop those formal writing skills all over again. So you should just learn them now and we'll all be good. So look at this example on the bottom here. And the trees all died. I don't know why they died. They just died. Something's wrong with the soil possibly, or maybe the stuff we got from the nursery wasn't the best. All these kids looking at little brown sticks, it was depressing. So if you look at the word choice, and again, word choice is really going to be the primary key. What words are they talking? They repeat the word died 3 times in a row. The word wrong, depressing, all of those words create an image in our mind. And that's the beauty of writing, is that it should give us an exact image in our mind of what the author was trying to show us. Sometimes the author doesn't want us to see stuff, and they do that on purpose as a way to maybe challenge the reader to look more deeply into the story. Next, we're going to talk about organization. So we have to understand the purpose of the essay assignment. Carefully read the instructions to identify what the instructor wants. Does he or she want a 10-page diatribe about your opinion on something? Or do they want a 2-page short essay about the differences between using a tanning bed and tanning lotion? You are not creating stories in novels with chapters. So you're not hiding information from the reader so that there can be a big surprise at the end. You're not creating poetry with various line lengths and stanzas. I love poetry. I do. I just don't want to see you create poetry when you're supposed to be writing an essay. You want to create poetry and an essay? I'm totally cool with that. Feel free to send it. I'll give you my opinion, and we can go from there. You are not creating a play with spoken lines and stage direction. Now, occasionally, there is a need to quote something, yeah, but you're not creating pages and pages of a dialogue between you and some unidentifiable force that existentially means that your life has true meaning in the end, or something like that. Now look at this little chart over here. So it's a triangle. We have tone, we have audience, and we have purpose, and it all focuses into the center, which is your content. Figure out the best way to organize the ideas so it is logical, sequential, and coherent. So you get all of this information and you put it in that triangle and you look to see what of all of these ideas you've created and brainstormed and generated are actually appropriate for your idea or your content organization. how do we avoid interruptions? And I know it's hard. I know. But, sometimes you have to just take control and say, look, I love you all, but get out. So let's look at how to avoid interruptions. Number 1, plan for it. Schedule wiggle room. Give yourself an extra day or two in case something happens. And again, look, I know some people have majored in procrastination, but always get their assignment in right at that due date, due time. But, and I know this is shocking, sometimes giving yourself that extra day will help your grade. Who knows? Number 2, take control. Create a system. Turn on Do Not Disturb on your phone and computer. No Skyping, no texting, no Facebook, no Instagramming, no tweeting, no Tumblring, or anything else. And definitely no porn. What you should be doing is carving out that 20 to 30 minutes where you are just with the assignment. And you should model behaviors for your friends and family and respect the work habits of others, because nothing is more satisfying than saying, do I interrupt your working time? Of course not. Being able to be a little superior makes everybody much happier. Hide. I know this sounds very, very passive-aggressive, but you know what? Sometimes the only way to get anything done is to hide. If you have a spare room in your house that is used for, junk and boxes, create a little desk on the boxes. If you live near a library or a Starbucks or a McDonald's or any other place that you can sit for hours and just not be considered a criminal. Number 5, just say no when you have a deadline to meet. I know it didn't work for drug use back in the 80s, but it is about learning to manage your impulses and putting that discipline to work inside of yourself. And speaking of disciplined, we're going to talk about disciplined. Excellence is a journey. Discipline is the vehicle. You can't get stuff done unless you dedicate yourself to it. I mean, just remember or think about the Olympics. We watch these young men and women who they get up at 3 o'clock in the morning, they train for 3 hours, they go to school, they come home, they eat high protein meals, and then they go practice some more. And, you're sitting there eating a bowl of cereal off your belly. So, again, it's about learning the skill set of being disciplined. And it gets easier as you get older because your brain develops some control over itself and you can control your impulses. So, how do we become disciplined? We develop a daily routine. Answer your emails, letters, and memos during specific times. And always check your college-issued email at least once a day. You never know when there is something going on that could, in fact, benefit you. Surround yourself with familiar tools. Sorry, I always screw that up. Pad, paper, pen. So if you like to write before you type, or even just take notes. A lot of times you'll get like an idea and you'll just write it off to the side. Yeah, sure. You can get Post-it notes for the computer, those digital ones, but sometimes you like paper. Your laptop or desktop. Music, again, will it work for you? Will it not? And what kind of music works for you? Do you have to listen to Metallica, or do you have to listen to something a little bit less loud and more, quiet? So like some Sade. Sticky notes, again. You can have real sticky notes. Some people like to put sticky notes on their cats to make them amused. So whatever works for you. Coffee or a favorite beverage, not a favorite bottle of your beverage necessarily. And number 3, stay consistent on bad days. Work on tasks that you can complete that will prepare you to write later on, such as research or clustering or brainstorming. So, for example, in this context here, Many professional writers will say that they give themselves a daily number that they have to hit in order to stop writing. And these are people who make their living writing books, novels, stories. And many of them will say that 5,000 words or 3,000 words is their daily requirement. And they will some days get it done in 2 hours, and some days it'll take 12 hours. So, on those bad days, you have to still hold yourself accountable. It's too easy to let things slide. So, we're going to talk about creating an outline. So, we hopefully have some topics in our head about some ideas. You figure out the main points. You arrange the main points. You create subtopics, and you evaluate. So, all that clustering and brainstorming we've done, this is where you're going to apply what you've learned. So let's talk about outlining specifically. You want to arrange and develop ideas formally. So if you have to write a 3-paragraph essay, you're going to do it slightly differently than a 5-paragraph essay. And we'll talk about that in a moment. But more importantly, it has to be formal writing. You have to ensure the ideas connect. Because if you start talking about something that doesn't seem to have any relevance to your thesis statement, it is questionable if anybody will truly get the point. The other thing is, in companies have mission statements. And with a mission statement is the idea of what the core of a company's belief system is. So, the mission. And everything the company does should relate to that mission. And it's the same thing with your ideas and a thesis statement. So the thesis statement is your mission statement. And everything you write about should in some way, even if it's a far reach and you explain it, connect. Then we're going to talk about some types of outlines. Your macro outlines create a larger picture through a series of short phrases and ideas. Develops a multiple ideas or issues that could be ordered in a number of ways. So, for example, let's say you want to write a book. You want to write the history of your hometown. Well, how are you going to divide it? Will you divide it by famous people from your town, or divide it by time period, or divide by location in the town? So you have to sometimes, and this is for larger writing projects, you have to really look at a overall organization. Now for micro outlines, which is really what we're focusing on in this class because we are, beginning composers. So micro outlines identify the little details for complex issues for further development. These are when we're writing sentences, quotes, and facts. So, don't worry about rules necessarily about outlining. What works for you will work for you. And that is the only thing you can really say about a hard and fast rule. But I can also say to you that when you are thinking about these things, you want to make sure that what you've done leads to a successful outcome. If it doesn't, it's not working. It doesn't matter how much you say it's working if you're not getting a good grade. So this is a 3-paragraph essay format, and print this out and use it to help yourself write the 3-paragraph essays. You have your topic sentence, supporting detail, and transition. And remember, you also need in that transition to make sure there's a thesis in there. Paragraph 2 and paragraph 3. Next, the 5-paragraph essay format. Again, print this out, keep it in your things that you always know where they are drawer, and you could use this. Now, introduction, creative opening to catch the audience's attention. Students can use quotes, interesting facts and figures, jokes, or anecdotes. Make sure it's funny. If it's a joke, nothing's worse than a bad joke. B, background information. C, preview the main points of the essay. And D, the thesis statement affirms the main idea of the essay. Now, a lot of times what I recommend is that you write your thesis statement first. That goes first. Then you write the 3 supporting paragraphs, or if there's going to be more supporting paragraphs, like in a research paper, what you'll then do is come back after you've written the body, and you go back to write the introduction, because now you have a very good idea of what you're going to be discussing and what you need as background information for the reader. And jump to the third part, which is the conclusion. Restate the thesis. Students should reword the thesis, don't rewrite or copy and paste. Summarize your main points. Students should reword topic sentences if you want to be, completely mechanical. Tie to the opening. Students should relate their conclusion to the opening of the essay. So you're creating a full circle in a sense. So let's talk about resources. Yes, we all know the internet exists. And we also know that libraries exist. Libraries have a lot more resources than you might think, because have you ever been doing research and you get to a topic you're really interested in and you click on it and then they want you to pay for the article? And you're like, oh my God, totally no way. So you bag out and you never get to read that amazing article that could change your life forever. The library has it, and PIT's library includes it. So if you're an online student, go look at the introduction to your Moodle room and you will find the information on how to access the databases in the library. Also, they can guide you, librarians, in certain directions for research that you may never have thought of. Other people, experts, questionnaires, surveys. Sometimes in classes you're asked to perform a little experiment. Well, you can go on to things like SurveyMonkey and create a survey for free. Yes, there are ways that you have to pay for it, but those are companies. An individual or a student can do it for free. Free! Freedom! Industry and government statistics. Any website that ends in .gov is a government website, and they have lots of really good statistics. Of course, the old-fashioned books, in addition to videos and articles. Never underestimate the value of a documentary to provide good information. A lot of us like the idea of being able to watch. We love certain kinds of shows, whether it's science or engineering or healthcare. We all sit there and watch the lady who pops pimples and we're appalled, and yet we can't look away. These are absolutely good sources, as long as they are from, actual experts and not ghost hunters, which is a little bit over the top. And your own knowledge, experience, expertise, and training. You know more about your job and your hobbies than most, so that means you're the expert. Let's talk about subject matter accuracy. Accuracy prevents plagiarism. Copy and quote information correctly. It is better to oversight your information than to undercite. And again, the MLA guidelines are posted in the introduction to your Moodle room. Check if the instructor requires MLA or APA. And sometimes the instructor will actually tell you ahead of time. Supply data to support your perspective. This is where the online databases available through the college can be a veritable goldmine of information. And document every source you use as you go. Just set up the page at the end and have your work cited, and then add them as you go. So here are a few proofreading tips. Number 1, proofread a few days after you complete a rough draft. Do not proofread immediately after you write the rough draft of your essay because your brain fixes the obvious mistakes without you realizing it. You may not realize it, but your brain is a code cracking machine. And I'm using my citation from livescience.com. For example, and I would like you to read both of these statements, and you will probably have no problem reading them, because it doesn't matter in what order the letters in a word appear. The only important thing is that the first and last letter are in the right place. The rest can be a total mess, and you can still read it without problem. And again, we see a similar thing on the bottom. Number 2, read your writing out loud to a family member, a friend, or a pet. You will hear the clunky and confusing sentences as they come out of your mouth. Be consistent with your fixes. If you use short dashes but switch to long dashes, the stylistic change will jump out at the reader. Proofread a print version first, then edit on screen. Look for statements that require more details, examples, or supporting data. Does each paragraph relate to proving your thesis statement? If an issue doesn't seem to fit, replace it with one that does. Finally, tech tools. We have so much out here that students from the 80s and 90s never even knew would exist. So first, we have our Grammarly website, www.grammarly.com, to check your grammar and to check for plagiarism. Plagiarism, just to make sure you understand, is punishable at the institution with a 0 on the assignment, and if you're caught again, you fail the class, and if you're caught a third time, you're asked to leave the college. It's a little generous, but we try and give people a chance to fix themselves. Use the spell check tool that is part of Microsoft Word. Those little squigglies under the words, that red squiggly, that means it's not spelled right, or there's a problem with the word. Also, check Google Play or the iTunes Store for more free writing tools that you can use to improve your writing. I know, all this stuff out there that you hadn't even thought of. You're welcome. Anyway, that's it for today. If you have any questions, feel free to email or text me. If you are not in my class but still have a question, please leave a comment and I will respond as soon as I can. Thank you and have a fabulous day.